Willkommen. My name is Sean Huggins, and this is React with Hugs.
I want to see how he reacts when he thinks no one's watching.
I can't help it if he's weird.
He's American.
He's going crazy with that work.
Everybody reacts differently.
I think he's weird, but that's me.
He's American, you know.
Let's hop into today's comment of the day. So today's comment of the day comes from Procurement Saifu. And they say, great video, dude. I like your intro. Procurement Saifu, thank you for the kind comment. And I'm glad that you like the new intro. It took me forever to make it, but hopefully more than just you likes it. I'm not sure. I'm getting mixed results, but hopefully people like it. If not, I mean, no big deal. We can always change it again. But enough wasting time. Let's check out today's reaction. All right, so yesterday I did a video about Germany and why it is the richest country in Europe and one of the richest countries in the world. Today, we're taking a look at Germany's unexpected economic crisis. This is a new video, just came out, and apparently Germany is not doing so hot right now economically, and we're gonna find out why, because I don't know anything about this. So let's see what's going on in Deutschland. Los geht's.
Germany is as famous today for its incredible engineering prowess as it is for big jugs of beer, sausages, and checkered history. Germany has recently become the third largest economy in the world behind China and the USA.
Whoa, third largest economy in the world behind China and USA. That's crazy, actually.
After overtaking a stagnant Japan. It's also clearly the most powerful and influential economy within the European Union, and a large driver of that economic success has been the country's ability to produce extremely high-end manufactured goods. Of course, there are the country's cars, but that only makes up a surprisingly small share of the country's total.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so only 8.6% of manufactured exports are cars. Wow, most of the things are machines and chemical products. Wow, machines and chemical products are most of the exports. That's actually not what I would have expected. I would have expected cars would be most of it, but that's interesting.
Total manufacturing output and an even smaller share of its exports. Germany really does live up to its reputation because it has become a world leader in a vast array of different engineered goods, from aircraft to medical devices to centrifuges used in nuclear energy. Basically, if there's something that really needs to be made right, there's probably a German factory making it. Or at least, there was. A long list of internal and external challenges have put significant pressure on German industry to...
Germany's days as an industrial superpower are coming to an end, but says Bloomberg. Oh crap, are they outsourcing the manufacturing now or something?
The point where a lot of economists and commentators are predicting that the country could lose its industrial dominance entirely. That is a big claim that would represent a significant shift in national, regional, and frankly global trade. But even if it does come true, it may not be as bad as it sounds for the world's third largest economy, and to find out why, we must as always answer a few important questions. So, why are economists predicting the end of Germany's industrial dominance? Why is this happening now? And finally, why could this actually be a good thing for Germany?
I don't know, that's why I clicked on the video.
As the world has opened up to more global cooperation, where goods and services are traded more freely between countries across the world, there's been a general shift towards countries doing what they do best. A country like China has an enormous and relatively industrially capable population, a decent global position for trade, and a political system that has been very accommodating of rapid expansion, so it has become a global centre of low-cost manufacturing.
Makes sense.
Singapore has a tiny landmass and a relatively small population, but it has developed a very robust political system, and it's right in the middle of the world's busiest trade route, so it has become a highly competitive business and refueling destination.
Ah, okay. So the geography really helps here too. That's not so shocking, but something that I wouldn't have thought of right away.
These economic features lead to something called comparative advantage. No matter how hard Singapore tries...
Whoa, dude, what is this building? It's like a freaking cruise ship on top of 3 skyscrapers. What the heck? Are you guys seeing this? What is this? That is insane looking.
Doesn't have enough landmass or manpower to compete with the industrial might of China.
Dang.
Likewise, without radical changes in the way the country operates, no international businesses will move their operations to China because it represents significant political risk. So this means that China has a comparative advantage in producing basic manufactured goods, and Singapore has a comparative advantage in producing financial services and operating as a glorified servo for the world. So long...
What's a servo? Australian slang for service station. Saying the full name of things is economically unproductive. Okay, so basically Singapore is where you go for services, specifically financial services. And China is obviously where everyone goes for to make low quality, low competition stuff. That's pretty obvious, and yeah, I think everyone already knew that one.
As long as these countries remain more or less cooperative with one another, these strengths and weaknesses are fine, because Singapore can buy cheap consumer goods from China, and Chinese shipping companies can use Singapore as a gas stop or a place to manage international finances. On an individual level in our own economies, we have grown wealthier by specialising in roles that we do really well and letting other people do the same and then just trading with one another. Most people don't know how to do surgery on themselves, but that's okay because they can pay doctors to do it with the money they've made from their own specialised job. Free trade and taking advantage of comparative advantage lets entire national economies effectively do the same thing, which theoretically should be great. Highly specialised roles in modern economies are one of the biggest reasons that the world is so wealthy today. But there can be issues at a national scale. On a personal level within economies, especially advanced and politically stable economies, there are authorities and institutions in place to settle disagreements. On a global level, there really isn't the same thing. There are mediators like the World Trade Organization and the UN, but if a country decides to cut another country off from trade, then short of declaring war on them, there really isn't much that can be done.
Damn.
This whole issue with holding a valuable place in global trade while not being overly reliant on it is especially important in Germany because of its unique advantages.
Oh, okay, here we go. Now we're getting into the good stuff.
Germany has a highly skilled workforce, especially in engineering and manufacturing disciplines, a decent geographic position within Europe, and has over the past few decades had access to very cheap energy. This gave it a strong comparative advantage in producing high-end industrial goods. Normally when people think of gaining an economic advantage in manufacturing, they think first to lower the cost of the labour force so factories have to pay their workers less so they can make things cheaper overall. This is why places like China produce so much of the world's stuff, but as wages in China have increased, global manufacturers are looking for cheaper alternatives in countries like India.
Damn, now China isn't even... Dude, China is paying people more so much that companies are looking to leave China. Oh my god. What the frick? How little do you have to pay people before a company is like, okay, enough is enough. We have maximized profits. We could pay people a couple cents more and still make trillions of dollars. Like, if you're leaving China because your workforce is being paid too much, what are you doing? That's insane.
Now, Germany is home to some of the highest paid workers in the world, so on the surface it doesn't make sense how it remained competitive with cheaper global centres. But, depending on the type of manufacturing, labour costs are not as important as one might expect. Most German industry relies heavily on either highly advanced machines and tools to assist with production, or they are producing something so valuable that the difference between paying someone $2 an hour to make it versus $50 an hour effectively makes no difference to the end price.
So super high quality, super expensive manufacturing is the key here.
German car factories use a lot of automated machines, with just a few highly skilled workers using those machines to make 100 times as many cars per worker as they could with basic hand tools.
Dude, that is a crazy assembly line. That is so cool looking.
At that scale, paying highly skilled German workers more has been competitive because the advantage came from having the machines and the experience to use them, rather than having the workers that would work for the lowest possible price. If this is compared to the type of products that countries like China typically produce, they tend to be put together with more basic tools and a lot of hands-on assembly. There are of course German cars that are also made by hand, but they tend to be extremely valuable, where the end consumer is willing to pay a premium to have a car that was hand-built in Germany. And that right there has actually been one of the biggest factors contributing to Germany's comparative advantage in manufacturing, and that's its global reputation. An even clearer example of this would be products made by a company like Siemens. Okay, yes, terrible name to put in a YouTube video, but still one of the country's largest manufacturers.
What the frick is this place manufacturing?
They produce things like nuclear centrifuges and everything that goes along with them.
I'm sure they do.
These machines cost hundreds of millions of dollars to produce and install, and it's the type of thing where not only would the reputation of German engineering go a long way, it would be the kind of thing that only Germany and a handful of other countries around the world would be allowed to produce without causing geopolitical tensions.
So, didn't Germany close all of their nuclear power plants? I think that I heard that they closed all of them, or they closed a lot of them or something, and yet they're still one of the world leaders in manufacturing other people's nuclear power plants, which is interesting. Very interesting.
Costs of machines like this are barely a rounding error, so the high cost of German workers isn't really a problem. Other input costs, especially energy, are more important for the highly mechanised industry taking place in Germany. Now, in the past, this has actually been one of the country's biggest strengths. Since the mid-1990s, it's been able to pump very cheap natural gas directly from Russia and Norway, which have some of the largest reserves of this energy source in the world. Now, clearly there have been troubles with this in the last 2 years, and higher energy costs are having a bigger impact on German manufacturing than higher wages ever really could. And that's only the first thing pushing the shift away from Germany.
Oh.
The energy crisis hit a lot of German businesses particularly hard because the country is still so dependent on cheap fossil fuels to power factories that use an incredible amount of energy. But German manufacturing has been in decline well before that already, and this trend too can be explained by carefully exploring what contributed to the country's comparative advantage to begin with. Its incredibly talented and highly skilled workforce is ageing, and thanks to generous retirement benefits that are a key feature of the country's economic system, people are leaving the workforce earlier than they might need to.
Okay, let's see what we got going on here. Okay, so based on this pyramid, basically Germany is getting old and there are less people being born to replace the old people. Okay. So there's going to be less workers than there are people on the retirement, the renter, the social security type of stuff.
Of course, on an individual level, this is fantastic. People shouldn't sacrifice the quality of their life for the sake of economic metrics. But businesses within Germany are struggling with this. Now, normally advanced economies can compensate for this by bringing in skilled migrants from countries with lower standards of living. But Germany has struggled with this too. Skilled workers just aren't as drawn to Germany as they are to places like Australia, Canada, the UK, and especially the USA. Now, part of this is just...
Oh, I wonder why. Is it because all of those locations are English speaking? It looks like maybe.
The language. English is a far more widely spoken first and second language than German is, but there are other factors as well. The high training standards that have contributed to Germany's strong manufacturing reputation means that even workers that want to move into low-skilled roles often have to sort through bureaucratic training certifications that can take years before they start working.
True.
Whatever the root cause, the results are the same. Germany is desperately short on manpower, with over 750,000 job vacancies in some of the country's core industries going unfilled.
It was very hard for me to find a job in Germany when I first moved there, even though I am college educated and have a lot of really good work experience in America. I came to Germany and had to start all over because they basically didn't recognize any of my experience or any of my education, and I had to start over at a very entry-level manual labor manufacturing job, which I was fine with, but even that was difficult to get, and it was difficult to keep because of my visa situation. The visa office didn't really make it so easy for me to get my work visa and to keep my work visa because of all the bureaucracy and stuff. And so I get this. It's very difficult to just exist in Germany as a foreigner. Even if you're trying to do everything correctly, it's just very difficult at times.
Gaining a comparative advantage for the quality of its manufacturing has also meant that it was only a matter of time until other countries caught up. Today, Chinese manufacturing is not nearly as far behind German manufacturing as it once was. China is building cars, batteries, aircraft, and advanced machinery that is genuinely rivaling the stuff coming out of Germany.
Oh crap, if China starts making good stuff, we are all screwed. Oh, damn.
Of course, China still produces a lot of garbage products, which is why it still has bad reputation for producing subpar goods, but it has demonstrated that it can genuinely compete in the advanced manufacturing space as well. Today, there are more BMWs produced in China than there are produced in Germany, and
what? Oh, crap. More BMWs produced in China than that are produced in Germany. Oh, that's a bad sign, I think.
Despite that metric perhaps being a bit of a national embarrassment, it ironically enough highlights how one of Germany's greatest opportunities is being hidden behind this seemingly bad news. German companies can charge a premium over companies from other countries for their manufactured goods because consumers perceive German-made goods as a high-quality alternative. Whether that's true, well, just ask anyone that's tried to maintain a Volkswagen. But the reality doesn't matter. What also doesn't matter is where the goods are actually made.
So I guess this guy is saying Germany can outsource some of the labor to other countries, but still put the Made in Germany stamp of approval on it because it's a German good, so they can pay a lot less for the goods to be made, but still sell them at the premium price because they have the Made in Germany tag on it. That makes sense, but I think that you can only do that for so long before then the Made in Germany stamp of approval loses some of its credibility because it's no longer actually made in Germany and not actually up to the standard of German quality that everyone is used to. So I feel like you can't do that forever. You can only do that for a short time.
People just see a German company and assume the goods were made in Germany. If the predictions of German industrial decline are correct, then what the country could do is leverage its advantage of having a fantastic reputation for producing goods that are worth paying a premium for, without any of the disadvantages of actually having to produce them in Germany. Germany scaling back on its manufacturing is in many ways kind of overdue. Compared to other advanced economies, even those that have their own large domestic automakers and high-end manufacturers, Germany has about 50% more of its people working in industrial jobs. These jobs can be made more productive by giving people working them more advanced tools and technology to leverage how much work they are doing, but there is an eventual limit. A worker building a car by hand might take a month to put one unit together, whereas a small team overseeing large industrial presses and robotic assembly arms could produce 1,000 a day, and since they produce more, there's more room to pay them more, which is why salaries in advanced economies are higher. But eventually it becomes better for these workers to just move into service roles, where instead of overseeing the manufacturing themselves, they spend their time setting up infrastructure and training teams in other countries to do it for them. The USA is the largest economy in the world today, in large part because it's home to companies that do most of their operations overseas, but still bring in the wealth generated from these activities back on shore. Germany has for the last 3 decades decided to do stuff more in-house. But this shift away from domestic manufacturing is not so much a failure of its industries as it is taking the next logical step for their advanced economy. But that doesn't mean that there won't be major problems.
Yeah, I feel like you can only have so many people managing overseas workforces. So then what do you do with all of the other people in Germany that are in these manufacturing jobs that no longer have these manufacturing jobs because they move overseas, and you can have one of these people from Germany manage an entire factory of people in China, for example, but then you have the entire German factory out of jobs. Like, it's not as simple as just saying, okay, everyone in Germany is just going to have their own team of manufacturers overseas now. You can't do that. It's just not possible.
If this shift away from local manufacturing does continue, it would represent a major shift in a major economy, and any change that big is going to have consequences. Workers across Germany are already protesting government changes to energy subsidies and tax rules, and while this is mostly directed towards agriculture and transport for now, it's a symptom of the shift in the way that business has been done in the country. Germany has historically had very harmonious relations between workers and companies, but that's because German workers are represented well by very powerful unions, and the economy itself is managed in such a way to protect workers' rights.
Until... Bomb.
This works while German companies need German workers. But if they can offshore a bulk of their operations, then it could undermine the highly egalitarian economic system that modern Germany has been built on.
Yep, when Germany doesn't need workers, then the labor unions don't matter. Oh crap. Okay, now I'm getting scared.
Even from the perspective of a purely cold-hearted macroeconomist, only concerned with headline economic figures, the shift away from domestic industry still could present risks. Theoretically, the workforce could move into more productive and value-adding service roles that made the country even wealthier, but the move from a role where a worker is directly installing engines into a car to something like a role where they're training a foreign team to install an engine takes a different set of skills. There's also no guarantee that this shift would directly lead to better jobs for Germans instead of just less jobs for Germans. Installing engines may not be as valuable as training a new team to install engines, but it does provide something to do so long as there are cars to be made. Once a foreign team has been trained on how to do a German's job, they don't really need the German worker anymore.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. If you train somebody else to do your job for you, what's stopping them from then becoming the manager of that team? And then you have a foreign manager being the manager of the foreign manufacturing teams, because then that foreign manager makes 10% of what the German manager makes. Why not outsource all the jobs then? Makes sense to me.
Beyond that, the reputation of a country is a lot like the reputation of a company, individual, or anything really. If German companies don't maintain their standards while setting up international operations, they will very quickly lose the large group of consumers who are willing to pay a premium for a good that is at least theoretically German.
Wow, okay, I'm gonna hop straight into asking you guys, the experts, what do you think of this? What's going on in Germany? What's the solution? How do we fix this? What are you guys thinking? This is crazy. This video is blowing my mind right now. It's kind of scary, actually. I think this video explains better than any other video that I've seen why people have been protesting so much in Germany and why people have been so upset in Germany for so long. This was actually a very interesting and informative video, but I want to hear from you guys, the experts. Let me know down in the comments, what are your thoughts on this? At any rate, though, that's all the time that I have for today. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing. We got new videos every single day. Thank you guys so much for being here, and as always, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.